Rish, and thank you to our witnesses today. I've just returned from Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, Oman, and Israel, where I spent the last week in a variety of meetings. Senator Blumenthal joined me in Israel, Lebanon, and Jordan. I am very concerned about the increasing malign influence of Iran throughout the region. I think this has been a steadily growing challenge for decades, and more recently, the attacks by Iranian proxies throughout the region. Again, the Houthis in Red Sea, Hezbollah into the north of Israel, obviously the brutal terrorist attack by Hamas, and the attacks by militias in Iraq. There have been no more attacks in the last 3 weeks since we took a fairly aggressive and forceful set of strikes against Iranian interests in Iraq and Syria. But I'm concerned by the meetings that I had throughout the region with partners and allies, almost all of whom uniformly said, even those who were gravely concerned, alarmed about the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, still did not want the United States to leave the region. So we are at a key point in Lebanon, as referenced by the chairman. There is some possibility for a resolution to the Hezbollah challenge in the south of Lebanon. In Iraq, there's active negotiations in the Higher Military Commission about the future of the U.S. military presence in Iraq. Even in Oman, the Switzerland of the Middle East, there's boycotts of American businesses and products and protests in the streets. If you would both please talk to what you think should be our path forward in Iraq. We've been there since 2014 as the leader in many ways of Operation Inherent Resolve, the counter-ISIS mission. And there is an active debate following our forceful strikes about our future in Iraq, and I'd be interested in your thinking on that and how we can most effectively contain Iran in Iraq. And I'd be interested in how you view the prospects for a better future in Jordan and in Lebanon if we continue to support Israel in its campaign in Gaza, and if there is no change in the current trajectory of the Prime Minister's strategy with regards to Rafah. Please, Dr. Maloney first, and then if you would, Mr. Hook.
I think it's very important that we maintain our presence in Iraq. Obviously, it has come under significant pressure, and we have to work closely with the government and ensure that we're not taking steps that in any way undermine the stability of either the government or the overall social and political environment in Iraq. But we have important interests there in preventing the resurgence of ISIS and in ensuring that we're able to protect both our broader interests across the Middle East by having small force presence in a variety of countries. So I think it is quite important that we do stay, but that we do it in cooperation with Prime Minister Soudani and with the government there. In terms of how we look to the future in the region, I think that the Biden administration has in fact invested an enormous amount of effort in taking forward the Abraham Accords, which the prior administration actually produced, and really bringing them to the fruition of seeing a Saudi-Israeli normalization. That would be an absolute game changer for the region. It would be fundamentally transformative for the politics, for the economy, and for the security scenario. And I think it is a critical piece of the puzzle of moving beyond this terrible conflict that is currently underway in Gaza. There can be no future unless there's a political and economic horizon for the Palestinian and the Israeli people, one that is grounded in real security and opportunity. And the only way to achieve that is through this kind of a breakthrough moment.
Thank you, Dr. Maloney. Mr. Hook.
I think on the subject of Iraq, I mentioned in my testimony the number of attacks since October, but I think you also know, Senator, since during this administration, there have been over 250 attacks in Iraq and Syria against American troops. And since October, we've responded 11 times. I think the attacks that we have done are necessary but insufficient. This is defensive military action.
How would you account for the lack of any attacks in the last 3 weeks?
It's a positive development, but I just think that there is...
What do you think caused that?
Well, certainly our attacks, but I think that if we had established deterrence sooner, 3 Americans who were killed in Jordan may be alive today.
Having been briefed on the underlying facts of the Tower 22 attack, I'll simply say it is a little more complicated, but I am very concerned about the vulnerability of our forces in Iraq and Syria, and I'll more broadly agree that I think we have to restore a deterrence against Iran. Iran is one of the leading human rights violators in the world. The people of Iran deserve a positive path forward. And to Dr. Maloney's point in conclusion, I couldn't agree more that if we can find a path towards Israeli-Saudi reconciliation, recognition, that's the most important strategic advance, building on the Abraham Accords that we could make. But the Crown Prince is very clear. There has to be an end to fighting in Gaza, and there has to be a path towards Palestinian self-determination. I only hope that the Israeli government can recognize the historic moment that we are at. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Romney.